we're doing this again, and naturally we have the new operator. That'll be, of course, the last one. Some of my rankings have changed due to the guns that I'm using on some of the new operators, and some of the changes. I'll look at Nook are huge and have made them good or bad. But starting off, we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to put Ace back into S tier. Ace is good. He's very good for solo queue and ranked stacks, so just overall a good operator. Alibi is D tier. Her gun is it's okay. It's an okay gun. It's solid. It's usable. Her ability is just not that good. It can be easily recognized, and it doesn't give I think it gives 4 pings. I think the Amaru is C tier. She's very good for quick rushes, and if you pair her with a lion, she's pretty good. Aruni's B tier. She's very good. She's another stall defender. She just makes them use utility on her thing, and of course that just slows them down. Now, with the changes to the R4C, Ashe has become A tier, but this does not take away from her ability to easily make... R4C is still better than G36C, so I'd always recommend using the R4C. But you do have to reload more often, and you don't have as many reloads, so it'll become a lot more risky of a game playing with her, right? Now, Zami, I think, is S tier. I wish she had maybe 2 more Kiba barriers, and she'd probably be really high in S tier. But for now, she's still very solid. She can stall for time. I just played a ranked game, I think, just last night, where I was on Chalet, and you can get some crazy angles. There's an angle on piano where you can get a nice angle, but we're gonna move past that. You can stall for time. I think it was Dokubi out on K9 Balk, and there's probably 30 seconds left. She had to break 3 different Kiba barriers, and I'm just waiting on the other side with the win. Bandit's A tier. Bandit's a little bit better than Ashe now. I'd argue Bandit is... It's risky. Bandit tricking is risky, but if you can pull it off right, Bandit is better than Cade. Now, I'm going to be taking away the black hole tier because I'm really lazy and just don't want to have to deal with it, but Blackbeard is so bad. There's no reason to ever be running Blackbeard at all. Blitz is C tier. Blitz is decent. Blitz is good for quick pushes if you can use him right. But if you don't use him right, he's not that strong. Brava is A tier, I would argue. I think that she's pretty strong right now, especially given... Now, you have to be good at droning, and you have to, think quick and just get in there, hack the thing, get out. Quickly do everything, right? Buck is S tier. Buck is so versatile with his... You can take flashes or hard breaches. You can get soft if there's a bandit that's beneath or a mute that's beneath a soft wall. You can easily just get that out of the way with his vert, his shotgun, to hard breach if you want to. He's very good. He's very strong right now, just in the sense that there's not There's no counter to him. There's no like. He's just really strong. Capitao, I'm gonna argue is B tier. I think that there's a lot of decent strats that you can do with Capitao, but you actually have to be using him right. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna spray some fire in there and hope that it works. No, you can't just do that, right? You actually have to like place the smokes and the fires, and you have to time them correctly and a bunch of different things, right? Castle is Castle C tier. I don't think he's nearly as good as Aruni, just because. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still fairly strong because he does waste time and he does make them use utility. But at the end of the day, you can usually just bring like an Ashe or a Zofia or a anybody with a Gon 6 and just quickly get that out of the way, right? Cav is kind of the same as Amuro, where it's quick playmaking. I'm going to argue Cav's just a little bit worse because your guns are horrible. Well, Amuro's guns are actually pretty strong, I will argue. I think Cav is D tier. I think that she has decent playmaking ability, but I think that oftentimes what happens is it's just so. It's very. Her pistol's solid. Her pistol's strong, but it's still a pistol, and therefore will not be able to compare with like most secondaries, if any, or most primaries, if any. Right now, Clash is below Alibi. I would argue because she's very easy to just like you can just bring like a Thatcher or Impact EMPs and just easily take her down. Especially if you know that there is a clash, it's easy to get rid of it, right? Deimos is probably B tier, I would argue. He's good for information. He's good for. Oh no, I haven't. Okay, we're cool. I thought I had the mic off for that whole time. That would be rough. I'm tired right now. I only got 5 hours of sleep. Moving on. Deimos is solid for information. I will say his pistol. Well, I mentioned this earlier with Cav just now. His pistol actually does. It's almost like a very small DMR. It's like a very quick mobile DMR, right? So like it's almost like a half loaded mag of two burrows DMR, right? Think of it like that, right? Doc is very selfish. Doc is not that good. Well, actually, yeah, he's good. He's just there's so many better ops you can choose for defense. He's very selfish. He's good for solo queue. He's you get tapped, you can heal yourself, right? It's good. I think that it was a. I think this. Sorry, I can't think right now. There's music going on in the background. But I think that it depends on the gun you like. I think the MP5 is a slightly stronger gun in the sense that there's less recoil. But the P90 is really fun to use whenever you do have it. Dokkaebi is still S tier, but she's going to be very low of S tier because the calls do get annoying whenever you can't just pop them back to back, right? You can no longer Dokkaebi rush, right? But she's still really strong, and her SMG-12 is good in the right hands. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think I have that pair of hands. I'm not very good with that gun, but her DMR's pretty strong too, and there's not many. I think Mute is about the only one who counters her, right? So, I mean, she counters every cam op, so like Valk and Echo, and I believe she counters Meister too. So, still very strong. even after the changes. There's been no nerf to the SMG-12 or any of either of her guns, from my knowledge. Echo is S tier because his gun is no recoil, has absolutely no recoil, and he's good for sight. You can play almost like as a roamer, or you can play like just to deny plant or whatever. You can do whatever with him. I'm gonna argue Ella is C tier. I think that she's solid with the impacts. I think that her gun is pretty weak because it bounces around like back and forth a ton. So whenever now I play on controller, but the recoil it's very like it starts and it looks almost like a funnel, right? Where it's very like shaky once you get to up here. So it's like you're pulling down, but as you're pulling down, it's just slowly going to become less and less accurate. So you're going to have to hit those first like probably 5 to 10 shots on her gun, right? Which you should. You should be hitting your first 5 to 10 shots. And if you aren't, kind of got a skill issue. Fenrir, I think Fenrir's really strong. I really like him. He can easily be countered by Brava or Twitch. So, or IQ, honestly, even. But it does not take away from he's really good right now. He's really strong. He doesn't have too many counters other than those 3. I can't move him up. I want him above Ash. He blinds you. You can't do anything about that, right? He has a very strong gun in the MP7, and there's not many, there's not many situations where he's a truly bad op to have, right? There might be some sites where he's strong, like I think Basement Chalet. He's really strong on that site. And I think he's a little less strong on even just the upstairs of that site. I think he's pretty weak on that site because there's a lot of different areas you can push. I think Finka's a little bit above Brava. I think Finka's pretty strong right now. I don't think there's too many counters. Well, no, none, in fact. And she's just strong in general. I think her gun, while being an LMG, is... Yeah, and if you're using the spear, you're just a little bit weird, I won't lie. I think Finka LMG is by far the best path to go to. I mean, not much to say on her. She can easily heal your teammates. I think Flores is C tier. I don't really like him that well. His gun is kind of weak. His ability, I mean, it's just okay, right? It's not like it's a good ability. I mean, you can easily clear stuff, but you're gonna have to, like, especially if there's a mute or even like a roamer like a vigil or a cav, they can easily just get rid of your drone. You can't do anything about it, right? Now, Frost, I think, is B tier. I think she's a little bit below Doc. I think Doc is slightly stronger just for the fact that his gun is better, despite Frost having no recoil. Frost does not have any recoil, none at all. But that does not, she's still, the gun is not that strong just because of how slow it fires, and the damage is not that high, right? You're gonna have to hit headshots on it, and it's going to have to be in the first about 3 bullets, right? I don't think Fuse is that strong right now. I think Fuse is pretty weak. There's a few sites, like, you can put him above, and he'll do fine. But I think he's about C tier. I don't think there's too many situations where you want to be running a fuse. Just this, I think that's the same way I feel about Flores, where it's like there's not many situations where I don't. I think you actually need to bring a fuse. Just like I don't think there's too many situations where you should be bringing Flores over like a Brava or a Twitch, right? Hmm. Glass is not that strong. I don't really like Glass that much. Why am I? I think Glass is there. I think that his DMR is kind of his sniper slash DMR. It's fine. I like the fact that you can see, um, you know, their like heat emission, whatever you want to call that. It's like thermal, right? But I also just think that it's not that strong, right? Like that's his ability is essentially just thermal with a mildly bigger scope, right? Goyo is really strong right now. I think Goyo is probably top of A. I want to argue his vector's pretty strong, especially if you can get that recoil down. Um, he just wastes so much time with his canisters, and he can do so many things for you. Like, I mean, there's a lot of good sites for him. I don't think there's too many sites where he's bad. I want to argue Gridlock's about B tier. I think that Gridlock is probably right about there. I think she's better than Doc. Well, I think she's better than Capteo in the fact that she forces them to like shoot and reveal their position to get rid of her gridlocks if they want to, not take any damage. And if they do just walk through them, you can hear them. Grim is probably A tier right here. Gonna sit right here. I think his gun is a little bit weak, but I think his ability is like I think that's an S tier ability. I think out of all of the abilities in this game, I think that's one of the best. I just also think that it's gonna be hard to do anything. Not that the gun is bad. The gun is it's fine, but it does have a lot of recoil and it does have not a very high set rate of fire, right? Now, Hibana is going to go right down here with Flores and Castle. I really don't like Hibana. I do not think that she is that strong. I think if you want somebody to just open hatches, why not just bring like a hard breach on somebody or bring an ace or bring, it's so. I think that there's no point in running her ever. Ever, 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 right? She's just. Her gun is worse than Ace's. She doesn't have, you know, she has flashes. That's great. Cool. But it's fine. It's really up to whoever's playing her. Like whoever's bringing the hard breach. If you prefer Hibana over Ace, that's fine by me. You're just gonna have to play her right. That's my thing. I think that Ayana is about. I think that Ayana is still A tier right now. I just think that her guns are pretty weak. I think that the ARX is solid, but it doesn't have like any ammo. It has 20 bullets per round, and I think that really drags it down. I think that the her ability is very strong. I think that she has smokes, right? That's a solid utility. And she has gun 6, which I do like. I don't think there's really anything to be mad. There's nothing bad about her. She just doesn't. I think her guns do drag her down. I think that is what drags her down. IQ. Now, with the addition of Scopos, she does kind of almost get buffed just because it's another thing where she can see it, but I don't think that really buffs it that much. I guess right there. She's got a solid gun in. I mean, all three guns. They're solid guns. They're respectable guns. I mean, whatever one you like the most. I mean, you have three solid choices, but personally, I do use the LMG. I think that it's easy to control, especially if you're running the right attachments. And I think that for like say now with the Scopus, you can run like, especially if you know that there's a Scopus, you can just run Claymores and Claymore that off, right? I think that I think the Jackal's like right here. I think the Jackal C70 is really good gun. Um, I unfortunately think that his ability. Sorry, I have a mildly stuffy nose and a very sore throat right now. But I think his ability. Well, yes, it is annoying to play against, and that is why we ban him. It's not really that strong, technically. I mean, yeah, it's annoying, but who cares? It's not that strong. It doesn't do that much. It pings them like once every like 5 seconds or something, right? Jaeger. Now, if you remember the first video I had on like this kind of subject, I put Jaeger down in F tier because I put an S tier and was like, there's no reason to ever run Jaeger. You shouldn't be running Jaeger. He's not that strong. His gun has a ton of recoil, yada yada. You know, I went on yapping for a while. I think that Jaeger's C tier. I've grown to respect Jaeger. I think that Jaeger, yes, his gun is weak, but I think there's some advantages to having him over Jaeger. No, or over Omai. I think that Omai does have a better gun, two better guns. I think both guns are better. He has better secondary. He has better utility. I just also think that there's some advantages where like this completely destroys it, and the Omai disc doesn't actually. And you can like this is reusable. Both of my discs only destroy one, right? There's a lot of advantages. There's a couple of advantages to having Jaeger. So he's not technically bad. He's just not the strongest, you know. I'm gonna put Cade right there, and why I'm gonna put him below Bandit is because his guns obviously are weaker. He has the same utility. He's I slightly prefer 3 speeds honestly over like 3 healths. So that's me. I do think that that is better. And I also, this is probably the most crucial bit, I think that it's easier to bandit trick than to Cade trick. Cade tricking is really hard. And yes, there's some advantages to Cade, like you can easily get hatches. And that's easy to EMP, right? You're not going to be trying to Cade trick hatches. This one's tough. I don't know where to put Callie. I think the Callie is she has pretty bad guns. Her ability is okay, but there's not really again a reason to run her. I think that she's going to be below Glaz because well, I think she'll be D tier right there. I'm saving F tier for the operators that I think you should never be running. Essentially, F tier should be reserved for people that if you're running, I legit want to TK you. D tier is essentially operators where you're like, it's fine, you can run them, but there's better choices. C tier is kind of the same thing, but almost like, yes, there are situations where this is the best operator for that situation. B tier, okay, I'm not going to explain that. S tier is just operators that you could be running no matter what, and it'll be fine. Capcan. I really like Capcan. I'm gonna put Capcan right by Fenrir. I'm gonna put him above. No, I like Fenrir a little bit more, but Capcan's really strong right now. I think good gun, good utility, good ability, very solid secondary too. If you ever need to use it, I think that he's really strong right now in the sense that, again, it's easy to see them, but he can get easy kills, free kills, especially if they're panicked and rushing. Like if I'm going to use an example, if you have had, I'm not even going to use an example, but like just late game, if they're rushing to get that plant off and they don't, in that moment, they forget that you are or have had a Capcan, you can just get that free kill. Like if they run through a doorway that you have some on, they're just some of the best kills to get. Legion, I'm going to put him in S tier. I think he's one of the best right now. A really solid gun, a really solid ability. Has a great secondary. And honestly, I don't mind the BP too much. You can put like a Legion mine below the BP and it'll get you some kills. Well, not kills, but it'll slow them down. It'll get you some time. Lion really is not that good. There's no real use for Lion. He's another selfish operator. Yes, he can be used correctly, but it's hard to. And his guns are pretty strong, I will argue, but he also doesn't. He has good utility too. I mean, you can't even complain about that, but I don't know, something about him. There's a few things. His ability, I wish I had another tick. I wish I showed like a live feed. See, like then he'd be in like a B tier or maybe even in an A tier. But there's no use for him, right? There's strategies you can use with him, but there are so many better operators, especially if you want to track somebody. Like Jackal is superior, and Deimos is definitely superior, right? And you can just drone if you really want to know where they are. It's just used for like rushes, right? Lion is good for rushes to keep them in place, right? Maestro is probably A tier. I want to put him right here. Maestro is really good. Again, he's kind of a denial for plant, and I actually think his gun is better than Echo's. It just doesn't have an ACOG, so I think that's why he's below. Really, is ACOG. Which, if you've noticed, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 people, five people who don't have an ACOG who are above Maestro. Maverick is probably C tier. There's a lot of strategies again you can do with him, but he's used for Maverick tricking, and he's used to deny a bandit trick. That's it. That is it. There's no other reason to use Maverick, right? His guns are solid. His guns are really good. He has good utility too. Claymores to deny the bandit trick, and flashes if you're just solo queuing to like run around and do stuff. Lucy is still A tier. Oh, S tier, my fault. I'm actually going to move Echo up one. I would rather have a Lucy than a Legion. I'm actually going to put Ace. Yeah, right there. I like this order. I think the Lucy's great because she gives you good sound cues. She slows them down. She has good utility, good secondary, good primary, and yeah, she's a three health, but it doesn't really slow her down that much. You know, there's a lot in A tier if you haven't noticed. Excuse me. Good lord. Mira is A tier. She can easily be countered by like an Ashe or Zofia or a Callie. Sorry. Holy crap. But she does give you very good info. She has a solid gun. She has good utility. She has good secondary. There's nothing wrong with her. She just also, like I said, can be easily countered. And she can actually be used against you, right? Same goes for somebody like Goyo, where he can be used against you, especially if you're roaming with Goyo. It can be used against you. Like you can be held off from your own position. Sorry, Monty's still B tier. I have, I have a friend who mains, well, not necessarily mains, but he plays Monty a lot, and he's always like, you should put him in A tier or even S tier because he's so strong. He could, he can plant. He can do a lot of strategies with him, but he doesn't have a gun. The P9 is horrible. And that revolver only has 6 shots and it has a ton of recoil too. So, unless you're hitting your headshots with the P9, you're not killing anybody. Or if you catch them off guard, but even then. Mozzie, Mozzie's C tier. He's just not that strong. He does give you good info, but his guns are really weak, and he has solid. He doesn't have a good secondary. He has a horrible secondary, one of the worst in the game, I think. But he has a good utility gadget. So, Mute's S tier. Mute's the best operator in the game. He has a good secondary. He counters almost everything. And in fact, I think that the only things that can counter him are like Twitch drones and Bravo drones, and even then, and Flourish drones, yeah. And even then, like that doesn't really counter him because you can stop that. This is why Buck is so high, is because you can shoot it through a soft floor, right? You can shoot stuff like Mutes and Bandits through soft floors, but Mute is really strong. This is one we've kind of been waiting for. Nook. Nook is now, again, kind of selfish operator. She's not D tier, don't worry. I'm going to move her. She's above Amaru. She's above Fuse. She's above... I think she's right here. Because I think you're still a glitch on this. I don't know if they patched... I don't know if they fixed that. I don't know if they fixed whether or not you're a glitch on the screen. But your ability does not go down at all now, right? Oh, wait. It only glitches whenever you shoot or are sprinting. Okay, yeah. So she's still really solid. She can easily counter. Honestly, I kind of like her. I'm gonna put her right there. I kind of like Nook, especially with the buff to the F9 or FMG9. I think that she's really solid. This is where a bunch of the B tier operators are. Is right here. Nomad is obviously B tier. I think that she's great to stop flanks. I think she's a better flank watch than Gridlock is, because Gridlock's more meant for like quick plants and to like force them to like reveal themselves, right? Whereas Nomad's to like flank watch, and she has arguably a better gun than Gridlock does, because I don't think that the F9's that good, honestly. Oryx is probably C tier, but he's really solid. Has a good gun, and his ability is not actually that weak. Like he can hop hatches, which is really nice, especially if you're roaming. And he can, I don't know, I think he's a really good playmaker. He's a good secondary too. So Osa is a very situational operator again. think the O's is right there. I think that yeah, she has two really solid guns to choose from. I just also think that she's like you can throw an impact. I played zombie the other day, and somebody brought up an OSA to I don't know even which window it was, but I just easily impacted both of her things. And there was nothing she could even do about it after that. Pulse is pretty weak right now, I would argue. Pulse is probably right here. I think that he's weaker than Cav because, yeah, he does actually have a gun, and Cav, yeah, probably has like the same gun but slightly weaker. But he requires to actually like pull something out to use his ability. I think he's just weaker. I don't like his gun as much as I like even Cav's pistol, just because you can run around really quick with Cav's pistol. Ram, I'm gonna put her B tier. I think that she's pretty solid right now. I think that very good for Vert. I think she does overkill it because if you put a Ram drone, or I don't even know what you call it, if you set a ram off and somebody's like crawling up like stairs, you can't really hear it at that point. So it is easy to flank when somebody is a ram because it's hard to hear when a ram goes off. But she's still really solid. She's still very good for vert. Rook. Rook is somewhere in D tier. I'm gonna argue Rook's right here. I think I like Cav a little bit more. Again, kind of the same reason I like her over um, Pulse. She's just easy to run around with, and she's fun. She's a good playmaker. She just is also really risky to play with. Rook is almost being too scared. Rook is playing very scared, right? Yeah, his guns are okay, but like if you're gonna play somebody like this, Doc is a better option because you're. And I'd even accept a Thunderbird. I'd rather have a Thunderbird. No, I wouldn't. I'd rather have a Rook. I lied. I'd rather have a Rook than a Thunderbird. Sense. Sense can go right there. Very, again, situational. There's going to be some new additions to F tier, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Probably two. But let me explain my census right here. Yes, he. Don't even try and stop me. That DMR is really strong. He can also easily just set off plants, especially if you pair it with a glass. A glass and trying to think. Sense pair is actually probably like an A tier strat, right? I hate doing that, but with the nerf to proxies, he's useless. Yeah, you can still do it, but you're gonna have to be playing near that. And it only really guarantees one kill. And even then, it doesn't always guarantee it. It could be a false proxy. You could hear somebody else's proxy and set it off falsely. His guns are pretty weak. I'd rather run Cali. I think that Cali is better. I'd rather run Clash. I think the Clash is better. I think Sledge is bottom of B tier. I think that he's pretty solid, especially again. He's like the opposite of oh my gosh. Holy crap. Support voice guy. He's like the opposite of Ram. He doesn't do enough for right. He doesn't show enough, right? So that's kind of my thing for him. Smoke is S tier. Smoke is really good right now. Yeah, I think he's right there. Smoke's really good. He just stalls for time. He's almost like Goyo in that fashion. But I actually kind of prefer his guns over Goyo. Just because he has like the combination of a shotgun and a really fast firing SMG, right? This hurts. This hurts. This really does hurt. But Solus is F tier with that. That just she's so nerfed. There's no reason to ever be running her. Right? Horrible roamer now because you can't actually see what gadget is out there. It could just be a drone for all you know. It could be somebody standing right there and droning right there for all you know. There's no proof of anything with her now, right? I think the striker's probably like right here because she can open a wall on her own, which is really good. I think that's really cool. I think that's good. I just also think that it's a little bit unfortunate that after, like, if you're going to open that wall on your own, you can't really do anything after that. Yeah, you have it cool, whatever you call it. Um, like LMG to use, and that LMG is really strong, but you know, there's just I think that there's a few better operators to choose from. Uh, sorry, Tachanka. He's just not that strong. He doesn't. He's like a really. He's like budget Goyo, right? He's fine, but there's no reason to ever be running him. His guns are. His LMG is good for rotates, and he's good for making really weird and wacky strats with him. But I don't really think that there's ever a reason. He's like his ability is almost irrelevant, just like Solus. And that's the reason Solus is above him is because Solus has decent guns, right? Thatcher, Thatcher's B tier, very solid. His guns are solid. His ability is good, especially if you're trying to open a wall. All right. Thermite, somewhere in A tier. I think the Thermite's right there. Thermite's very solid. I think the problem with him is it takes a while to set off your thermite charges. So if that wall is electrified and there's a bandit trick right there, that you're kind of screwed. I'm not gonna lie. And that kid's good at bandit tricking. You're really screwed. But if they manage to, you know, time the Thatchers right, and they manage to do everything right, you're left with an open wall with a very solid gun, right? Probably a very like high A low B or high B low A tier gun, right? Thorn is D tier. I think that she's weak because her ability is selfish and doesn't really do much for the team. Yeah, she can kill with it, but it's almost like taking you can use like a cap can and it's so much better because it's an instantaneous set off and both can just be hacked, both can be broken, both can easily be seen, especially if you're actually looking for it, right? Thunderbird. Thunderbird's just so weak. Her guns are absolutely horrible. Her ability is solid, but it's like Finka if her guns were really weak, I guess I should say. She doesn't have good utility either, so there's no point in arguing that either. I really like Tubero. I think that he's around somewhere in B tier. Do I really like him more than I like Gridlock? Like in these? Yeah, I do though. I like him. He's really fun to play. I'm gonna put him right there. I think he's really fun to play. I think that he's kind of just time staller. He's very And like he can be used to. He's a good playmaker actually. I've learned this about him. He's a good playmaker instead of just being like a time staller. Like you can jump out with him and you can make some plays because you can. If somebody put like a nomad there, you can just freeze the nomad and jump out, right? Twitch is A tier. We're gonna put her right there. I think that she's a little bit. We're gonna put her one above Brava. I think that she's a little bit better than Brava just because she gets unlimited while being timed shots, and Brava does have a limited amount of shots. I think the Valk is the lowest. No. Valk is A tier. Valk is A tier max. Her guns are very well. Her primary. Her what do you call it? Eagle's very strong. I can't think of what it's called. MPX. MPX is pretty weak. Yeah, it doesn't have any recoil, but you're gonna have to hit headshots with it, right? It's what I've been saying about a lot of guns, right? If you don't hit your headshots, which I sometimes am off on some days and I don't hit my headshots, so I don't always feel comfortable with Valk, but she does give you great information. She has good utility and two solid sets of utility. I mean, if you want to use the impacts, you can be my guest, but I think that the C4 is better. Vigil. I've been saying this about a lot of different operators. He's selfish. He's very selfish. But I also think that he's very good. I think that he's I don't know what to think about him. I don't know whether to put him low B tier or like high or low C tier or high B tier. He floats. He floats somewhere in here, right? And he's gonna land here today. I think that no. I think that he's right here. I think that he's good, a very good roamer. I think that he's one of the best roamers in the game right now. I think it's him. I think it's I can't even think. What's his face? I think it's Smoke and Legion. And there's one more that's still on the list, so like in here. Well, actually, there's technically 3 other good roamers in the list, but well, my is well, mine is low A tier. I think after that, I think taking away his ACOG and not giving him more discs to work with was such a bad idea. I think the fact that they essentially almost buffed Malusi while nerfing Wamai was such a bad idea. I think that I just don't like it. It's a bad decision on their part. I think that he's still fun to play, and I think that he's still pretty good, though. Now, Warden, he's actually nerfed as a roamer just because we're actually going to put him right here with Oryx, actually. Right here with Oryx. I think that he's a little bit worse than Oryx just because Oryx has a better gun. Yes, I think the T5 is superior to the SMG12 and the MPX. But now if you can get recoil down on the SMG12, SMG12 is obviously better, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is really easy to control and really easy to use. Sorry, I'm tired. Oryx, straightforward. You know what to do with him. Warden's a little bit more complicated, right? And that's why I'm going to put Oryx a little bit higher. Now, Ying is, whoops, not C tier, S tier. Ying is right there. You get flashed into the next, like, multiverse whenever you get flashed by Ying. It's not just like, oh no, I've been flashed by Dokkaebi and I'm not getting pushed by her. It's like, oh no, I can't see for the next, like, solid, like, 5 seconds. I'm dead. Especially if you're tucked in a corner, you're a goner. Sorry, buddy. That's just Yeah, you're cooked. I think the zero is right there. Here, hold up. Yeah, we have permission to do this. I'm gonna move Goyo to S tier, and I really like this move because he's very strong. He's really fun to play with. There's nothing wrong with him, right? But enough about Goyo. And moving on to Zero. Zero has one of the best guns in the game in the Skook, and I think that it's kind of in the same situation as the R4C, where it's got the same 25 bullet mag, and I think if either of these had 30, they're back into S tier, right? But they don't, and so therefore, you don't really get the benefits. So now you're here. I feel like in the last one I probably disrespected Zofia. I don't remember what I did to her, but she's D tier. She's Her guns have so much recoil I can't use them at all. So I think I'm a little bit biased, but in her ability, I think if you want to use somebody like that, you have to be using Ash. I think Ash is such a superior um, operator to Zofia. Now, let me give my assessment of the Scopos operator. Scopos is actually one of the best roamers right now because you can set like one of them up in sight, or you can set one up to flank, or you can, and it's just such a good ability. You can teleport. It's essentially teleportation. Now, yes, with operators like IQ, they can essentially see where you're teleporting and say, no, offer declined. So, what I'm going to say is that she's definitely somewhere in B tier. Hold up, get out of there. You go back over here. Here, you know what? Let's start at the bottom of F tier. Better than that, better than that, better than that. You know what? We're not doing this whole thing. I'm yapping right now. I think that she's better than Tubero and Deimos. I think that unfortunately, since her things are so loud, her things. If you've ever played against a Scopos, you can hear her things creaking up the stairs. It's really funny. But I think she's right here. I think that her impacts and her gun's really solid. There's nothing to complain about her. I just also think that there's some things that they could do to buff her, and that would make her a lot more scary. Like if they added an ACOG to her gun, I'd be horrified. That gun is really good at the way it is. They added an ACOG, she's probably somewhere in like S tier. Essentially, do you remember where I had Echo before? His ACOG was around. I had him probably somewhere in here, somewhere high B tier. And that's where Scopus is. I think that Scopus is a high B tier operator. All right, that's gonna be it for this one. I need to get some sleep, despite it being 10 in the morning. All right, where is it? Yeah, yep. Bye. Good night. No, an hour long. Holy crap.